Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As I sit here munching a sandwich and contemplating the vagaries of human existence, or more specifically waiting for masses of cans to be pulled out of my trailer, I would like to discuss with you something that happened at Mythcon, and something singular. After Cristiocity finished her temper tantrum at the very end, realizing she probably had just lost the debate massively, she said something very interesting, and I quote, "We all agree on equality of opportunity." And the room gave this meh response. The traditional, yeah, we all agree, thing is thing. But here's the gist of it. I don't agree, thing is thing. What is equality of opportunity? What does that word mean? What does that term refer to when we say it? Right now, the social justice movement is behaving as though there is this magical infinite supply of opportunities. Therefore, denying someone an opportunity is not a major problem because we have enough and more for everyone. They genuinely seem to believe that an opportunity may be treated as a personal possession because, again, being in infinite supply, there is enough and more for everyone. But I consider that highly questionable. I mean, obviously, we can't all be CEOs. The adage, too many chiefs and not enough Indians, goes all the way back to the colonial period. Moreover, if there were an infinite supply of opportunities, you would never have seen the demise of the general stores when, back during the 1950s, my grandparents, well, no, that was the 1930s up through the 1950s. My great-grandparents, ran a general store in Pennsylvania. And the story my family always tells is, as the supermarkets came in, people stopped going to general stores. I mean, why walk in with a paper bag or a cloth bag and buy 5 pounds of flour when you can go to the supermarket, grab a bag full of flour already packaged, weight exactly, no worry about thumb on the scale, and leave with it. And you can get a better selection of things like fruit, vegetables, meats. I mean, prepackaged meat in the 1950s, that was a revolution. Holy cow, you didn't have to stand there and watch the butcher cut the meat? I mean, people think a meat counter day is something novel. Back then it was the norm. It was packaged meat that was novel. But I digress. As large supermarket chains came in, small, local grocery retailers, general stores, were driven out of the market. Everyone knows this. But what no one stops to question is, if opportunities were in infinite supply, why would that be the case? Think for a minute, okay? What is an opportunity? What defines this thing? I mean, watching right now from truck driving, I can tell you, Love's, TA, Pilot, the big truck fueling chains are destroying all the local mom and pop truck stops. Why? I mean, it's not like there's a shortage of trucks that need fuel. Trucking is expanding at ridiculous speed. There's really no reason, if opportunities were functionally infinite, why you would not be able to have an infinite number of actors in every market. So the only thing I can conclude from this is that opportunities are not infinite, which brings us to a very important question. What is an opportunity? What defines an opportunity? Would someone say that scrubbing toilets for a living is an opportunity? I can't imagine anyone saying that. Would someone say that driving a truck for a living is an opportunity? Quite possibly. Again, I don't think very many truck drivers would tell you they'd be out here if they weren't getting paid. But I can think of a few people who might define driving a truck as an opportunity. Certainly being an owner-op would be defined as an opportunity. Would people define bussing tables or working at the front desk of a hotel as an opportunity? Again, not so certain about that one. Those are pretty rough jobs. It's better than cleaning the bedrooms at a hotel or scrubbing the dishes in a restaurant, but not really an opportunity. So what defines an opportunity? There are two definitions that have occurred to me. The first is the ability to benefit from one's own labor without exploitation. The second is the ability to benefit from the labor of others without reciprocal return. That is, to exploit the labor of others. Now, I'm not going with the dictionary definition because I'm sitting in a dock where I don't have access to the internet. And even if I did have access to the internet, I can't imagine the definition they would provide being all that helpful. So, we have two definitions. One is the ability not to have one's labor exploited, and the second is the ability to exploit the labor of others. Now, which is the most clear definition? Is starting your own restaurant an opportunity, or the same level of opportunity as, say, owning a restaurant franchise? Is starting your own one-person cleaning company an opportunity, and is it the same opportunity as, say, owning a multi-million-dollar cleaning franchise? The answer is quite obviously no. And it becomes even more obvious when you start looking at statistics. Now, I don't have them on me, again, obviously no internet, but I know them pretty much from memory, and when I post this, I'm going to include the links in the low bar. Right now in the United States, less than 9% of adults go to college, get a degree, and get a job in the field they studied. I think it's something like 34% of adults graduate college, 27% of them end up working in their field. Might be 23%, not certain. Even if we say related fields, which frankly could be anything, to be blunt, you get an English lit major and get a job as a secretary, and it's a related field. But even if we include related fields, you're still not looking at more than, I think, a quarter of adults going to college, getting a degree, and being able to do anything at all with that degree. And again, many of them are still being exploited. Okay, the programmers who work for Microsoft and are subject to the blacklists and the inability to change companies because of the no-compete clauses are absolutely having their labor exploited. You wouldn't need to have blacklists and no-compete agreements if your laborers had every reason to believe they were enjoying the full benefits of the work they had done. So, the idea of the lone individual building it themselves is further refuted by nearly every credible tract on socialism and communism ever written. I will cite here merely Proudhon's quotation: "No one is unfamiliar with the difficulties of turning wasteland into arable and productive land. These hardships are so great that an isolated man would die of starvation before putting the soil in a condition to yield him even the most meager living." And this is true throughout all of industry. A lone individual would never construct a factory by themselves, nor build a bridge, nor likely assemble a railroad train. The united labor of dozens, if not hundreds of people is necessary for these things to occur. So, an opportunity in its narrowest form cannot be understood as a lone individual acting by themselves. A lone individual acting by themselves will never perform all of the tasks necessary. It is only by acting in concert with others that we are able to achieve. This is the foundational understanding of all socialism. Thus then, what is an opportunity? Now let us look at what people refer to. Again, I have already cited college as an opportunity. The ability to get an education is broadly understood by many as an opportunity. But having to work your way through college is generally regarded by most people not only as not an opportunity, but not something that can be credibly done anymore. Multiple counselors when I was in college, and this was 20 years ago now, stated very flatly that if you attempted to work a 15 to 20 hour a week job while going to college, you would almost certainly fail your courses. This isn't a personal anecdote. This is multiple experts telling incoming students, listen, don't try and work a job. You will flunk. So again, working your way through college is not an opportunity. It is only an opportunity if someone else is providing you the finances, materials, resources, and means necessary to stay at college without having to work. That is, you enjoy the benefit of someone else performing work on your behalf, hopefully under the assumption that you are going to perform reciprocal labor for them in the future, but entirely possible that you may never perform any reciprocal labor, and they may never get anything back for what they have done for you. So what are we left with? An opportunity is, first and foremost, not infinite. So even were we to assume that opportunities are labor neutral, that is, that no one else's effort is necessary for your opportunity to exist, we would still not have enough opportunities for everyone. That is, that equality of opportunity would mean nothing more than the equal capacity to knife each other in the face over an ever-shrinking pie. That is our best case scenario right now. That is, with each person who takes an opportunity, the total pool becomes smaller and smaller, and a greater proportion of people are fighting over an ever smaller proportion of available opportunities. I don't see any reason why I would support that. I see no benefit at all to such a construction where all we are doing is brutalizing each other over the tiny handful of available opportunities, hoping that we get to have one. Far better that if these opportunities are in fact limited in supply and labor neutral, I repeat, we determine a way to apportion them as community property to those best fit, not to treat them as a personal possession and benefit themselves, but produce the greatest possible benefit for the community as a whole. This is something social justice has shown no interest in. No argument, not one single argument anywhere has been made why handing opportunities to people based on race and gender will benefit the community as a whole. All we ever hear is, it's their turn. We're not taking turns. I'm not interested in taking turns exploiting each other. I'm interested in ending the exploitation. Again, the quotation I absolutely love, and I wish I knew where I heard it. If society is a banquet laid out for the few, with the many forced to fight over the scraps that fall to the floor, then my goal is not to rearrange the occupants of the chairs, it is the abolition of the table itself. Equality is a massive exercise in chair shuffling, and Cristiocity has, again, at the very best, admitted she is only in changing who benefits from the exploitation, not ending the exploitation. Now, let's look at the worst case scenario. That is, there are no clean opportunities. There are no opportunities anywhere that do not necessarily involve the exploitation of some worker somewhere. If you are opening a clothing store, you are by definition exploiting the labor of those who worked in sweatshops to produce the clothing. If you are opening a gas station, you are by definition benefiting from the exploitation of the environment in carbon and all those who will suffer from carbon pollution. If you are opening a trucking company, you are benefiting from the exploitation of the truck drivers. If you are going to college, you are benefiting from the exploitation of all those who labor to produce the shelter, food, and clothing you are not producing while going to college, for a degree that has nothing to do with the production of shelter, food, and clothing. And it is the second definition, the equal ability to exploit each other, that concerns me so deeply, because it is only in this context that the continued howling, it's our turn, it's our turn, it's our turn, makes any coherent sense. If you believed equalities to be infinite, there is no reason why we should need to take turns. If you believe them to be finite, then the most logical step is to apportion them based not upon turns, but upon who is going to produce the greatest good for all. I have no reason to care if I don't get an opportunity, if in return for someone else getting an opportunity, I am guaranteed shelter, food, and clothing indefinitely. The only way the argument that we should take turns makes any sense is if opportunities are the product of class exploitation, which means those advocating equality rotation or equality of opportunity in a turn-taking sense are the enemies of every socialist and communist everywhere. They may call themselves communists, they may call themselves socialists, they are not. Communism and socialism is not taking turns exploiting each other. Communism and socialism are not exploiting each other. Period. Not open for debate. It is fascinating to me that when Cristiocity realized she was losing, the first thing she reached for was not, okay, we should all agree that exploitation should stop. The first thing we reached for was, okay, we can all agree that we should take turns exploiting each other. This movement, call it whatever you will, feminism, social justice, I prefer neo-feudalism, that's just me, whatever you call it, it is not interested in ending class warfare. It has never been interested in ending class warfare. That is something it has always stapled on at the 11th hour in order to give itself increased credibility. And we must stop allowing it to do this.